Hey guys, this is just a quick video going over cellular respiration and photosynthesis, which is what we're going to be talking about over the next couple of days/weeks. So we'll start with cellular respiration. Hopefully by now you know some things about cellular respiration. What is it? It is the process. Don't forget that this should be in your Google Classroom, your note page to fill in that goes along with these PowerPoint slides. The process of cellular respiration uses glucose to create energy by breaking apart the chemical bonds. So basically that means that all organisms use glucose to make energy. So we eat to get our glucose. That's how we get glucose in. We also need oxygen in order to do cellular respiration. So we breathe and we eat and we create energy in our cells in order to do all the other things that our body has to do. And so does other living organisms. There's an equation here that you do need to know. The equation here is O2, which is oxygen, plus C6H12O6. This is glucose. Makes, so in math you use an equal sign, in science you use an arrow. It basically means yields or gives you or makes or produces CO2 and ATP. Whenever we're thinking about these formulas, and again, there are these two that you need to know, the cellular respiration formula and the photosynthesis formula. They're two that you need to know pretty cold. I like to think of them about like making cupcakes. That's what I always say. You can make cookies, you can make whatever you feel like making, but I always say making cupcakes. And basically, the things on the left side of the arrow, the oxygen and the glucose in this case, are considered your ingredients. It says it right here, oxygen and glucose. The arrow is the equivalent of like putting it in the oven. So you mix these together, you put it in the oven, and then out you get carbon dioxide and energy. One of these two things is the reason that you did the reaction. So you are going to come out with, as a human, you're going to come out with energy. That's the reason that the organism does the reaction. That's what I call the cupcake. That's why this whole thing occurs. You're also going to come out with carbon dioxide, but the organism does not produce energy just so that it has carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is what I refer to as like the dirty dishes or the waste product. So you don't go home and say, hey, you know what I'd love to do? I'd love to do a sink full of dishes. I think I'll make some cupcakes. No. You go home and you say, oh, I'll put cupcakes. So you make cupcakes, and as a byproduct, would be very difficult to make cupcakes without having dirty dishes. So you end up with the dirty dishes anyway, even though that's not really why you made the cupcakes. Okay, so again, your ingredients are on the left side. And then on the right side are usually at least one, if not maybe two waste products. And then in this case, the reason that you do the reaction, the whole reason for cellular respiration here is to make energy. This picture right here is just a little cartoon of the molecular setup of glucose. If you counted those up, if I could get this thing to go away, if you count those up, you'll see that there should be 6 C's, 12 H's, and 6 O's, just like it is C6H12O6. That should be what that is. And then this is just Homer Simpson being silly. How much ATP do we use in a day? And there's Homer out for his morning run or afternoon run. So where does cellular respiration occur? It occurs inside the mitochondria. The mitochondria are inside all of your cells. The mitochondria has something called an inner and an outer membrane that helps to create the energy in the cellular respiration process. So whenever you see a doodle of a mitochondria, you always see this outside circle, ovalish kind of shape, and then you see like the ziggy-zag. A lot of times I'll just draw like a zigzag line inside to show the inner and the outer membrane. But all of the ATP is actually getting made inside this inner membrane. You don't have to worry about that word cristae. That's just talking about the folds that create the inner and the outer membrane. There are more folds because it gives more space for more energy to be made, basically. If it was just straight, it wouldn't have enough space, or it wouldn't have as much space. So then we have photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is kind of an opposite reaction, but you have to be careful with that as an automatic thought. It's not exactly an opposite reaction. So photosynthesis is the process that plants use the energy from sunlight to convert water and carbon dioxide into oxygen and high energy carbohydrates, sugars, and starches. So basically, like, what the heck does that mean? Basically, it means that the plant makes its own food in the form of carbs, sugars, and starches, using energy from the sun, water, and carbon dioxide. So remember, for cellular respiration, we eat our food to get the glucose to make energy, and we, of course, take in oxygen to make energy. Plants cannot drive themselves through the Dunkin' Donuts drive-thru and get their bacon, egg, and cheese and a coffee. So they have to create the food inside their cells. So they create these molecules inside their cells, particularly sugars and starches that are broken down into glucose. Excuse me. And then the glucose is used for the plant to make energy. So here's the photosynthesis equation. Again, this is an equation that you'll also need to know. It is 6 molecules of carbon dioxide. You don't necessarily need to know the 6, but it's carbon dioxide plus water. Again, remember that on the left side of your arrow is like your ingredients. The plant will also need sunlight, but I kind of put sunlight over here because sunlight is technically not a molecule. So technically it doesn't need to go in the equation, but you do need to have that in your brain that, yes, it also needs sunlight. It needs sunlight, CO2, and water. These are the common things that plants need. And then again, if you think of it like the cupcake, here's your ingredients. You put it in the oven, and you come out with C6H12O6, which is sugar or glucose, and oxygen. Okay? Again, the reason that the organism is doing the reaction is for the sugar. This sugar is what you might refer to as the cupcake, if you're using that analogy. The O2 over here is what I would call a dirty dish or a waste product. It is given off as waste. It also, in a plant, some of that O2 will be actually used to create energy as well. But it is a waste product of photosynthesis because the purpose really of photosynthesis is to make that sugar or glucose. So what else does photosynthesis need? In addition to water and carbon dioxide, plants need light, of course, and something called chlorophyll in order to undergo photosynthesis. Chlorophyll is found inside of your chloroplast, not yours because you're a human, but inside chloroplast of plant cells. It is what makes the plant green. If you remember back to the video from the comparing plant and animal cells, there was that video that I had linked there of the Elodea, which is an aquatic plant, and inside the aquatic plant you could actually see the see the chloroplast moving around. Inside those chloroplasts is something called chlorophyll, and the chlorophyll is a green pigment protein, and it does a lot of other things, but that's what gives it its green color. Okay, so make sure that you have filled in, I believe that is it for those notes, short and sweet. Make sure that you have filled in your worksheet, which looks like, not that, which looks like this, and can be found on your Google Classroom. And then you can continue on with whatever other activities you need to be doing. Yeah, it looks like this, cellular respiration, and the second page is photosynthesis. Okay, have a nice day.